Welcome to the Insomnia Project. Sit back, relax, and listen as we have a conversation, a chat, if you will, about the mundane. One thing we can promise is that our conversation will be less than fascinating so that you can feel free to just drift off. We invite you to go to iTunes and rate us and leave a little comment. We love that. I want to thank you for joining us. We hope you will listen and sleep. I'm your host, Marco Timpano, and joining me on today's episode is Trevor Martin. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you, Marco.
Trevor, I wanted to talk to you about something that I know you're very passionate about, and that is a fantasy NBA pool.
That's right.
You got to walk me through this because I've never been in a fantasy pool before and I don't know how they work. So let me ask you this. What's the first thing you do?
The first thing you have to do is you join a league. Now, in my case, I am in two leagues. One is a normal league. It's a standard season-long league where we play essentially with a team that we draft at the beginning of the year until the end. And the end is usually before the playoffs of the actual NBA season. The other league I'm in is a dynasty league.
Oh, my goodness.
And a dynasty league is where you keep the same team from year to year.
Oh, so if I was to join, it would be, this is my team.
Yeah.
From today to 20 years from today.
That's right.
Okay.
And the only way you can really change your team is you would draft rookies who join the league.
Okay.
Or you would make trades with other managers.
So essentially you become a manager for this dynasty league,
That's right.
But what happens when one of your players, so let me see if I got this straight. You sort of sit down with your computer and paper and you sort of figure out who you want on your team. And you pick how many players?
Depending on the league, probably up to 13 players. 13 to my dynasty league, we have 18 players.
Okay.
Which is a lot.
So under 20, right?
Yeah.
And you're figuring out who you want on your team so that when they're actually playing in the NBA, the amount of baskets they get
Yes.
accrue to your point system.
That's right.
Versus my point system.
Right. Now,
Week to week, right?
week to week.
Okay.
Yeah. There are several different types of fantasy league scoring. There's
Okay, before we get into
Sure.
that, walk me through your process. So
Okay.
it's would you call it draft day or like the start of the season?
So you have a draft day. You do your research.
Okay.
You decide who is going to be, who's in the best situation now, because it changes from year to year. Where somebody will retire and it'll be like, oh, this backup is now going to be the starting point guard,
Right.
Or something else is someone has changed teams, or a new coach has come in and maybe they have a faster style of playing. That happened right with the Houston Rockets recently, where Mike D'Antoni, who is a very who's known for he was Steve Nash's coach, and
Steve Nash, for our listeners, was a great Canadian basketball player.
He won the MVP twice when Mike D'Antoni was coaching him, and it's because he had a style called 7 seconds or less, and it's basically the idea was as soon as they got the ball within 7 seconds they would shoot. They would have a shot.
This is D'Antonio's
This is
strategy?
D'Antoni's strategy,
Okay.
and so now he's applied this to the Houston Rockets, and now players on the Houston Rockets are very coveted in fantasy because their pace is so fast. They're always shooting,
And so they get more shots on net, right?
which means that more people are going to score. There are going to be more statistics that happen, and it's
Okay.
all about. My wife says it's numbers. You're just watching numbers,
Right.
And it really, we could be doing this with the weather. Like we
Really?
could literally just be what's the barometric pressure in Houston today,
Right.
And it would be the same as James Harden's field goal percentage. But so on draft day, usually what happens is there's a snake draft, which means
A snake draft? Like a snake? Is that
the reason it's called a snake draft is because if there are 12 managers, there's a random order that goes out
Okay.
from 1 to 12. And the reason they call it a snake is because it winds like a snake. So if you have the 12th pick, the order goes in reverse order. So as if like a snake, you have the 12th pick and you have the 13th pick. And then it snakes around to the first. I'm making a hand motion to show you, but it's called a snake draft because it just goes into reverse order every time. There's another type of drafting which is called auction drafting, where you get fake money basically, and you bid for the players that you want. And so you can spend a lot of money on one player and then end up having to budget
for the rest.
That's not a style that I usually play with. I usually play with just a traditional draft.
So during the snake draft, back to the snake draft, who is number one, or the first manager, or the first player to select?
It's always randomized by the computer. You don't know until the draft is about to happen, and then you find out 5 minutes before the draft starts. And there's a strategy to it because everyone essentially has the same order, where they did. There's some obviously excellent players in the NBA. LeBron James, for example, he's, although statistically he's not great lately, but there are people who, James Harden was the guy I just mentioned. He's the number one guy because
he's the number one draft pick, not only for fantasy football,
for fantasy basketball,
for fantasy basketball. Sorry,
because he's a basket. Yeah, he's always number one because he plays in that system I was talking to you about.
Right.
He basically always has the ball, and so he's always passing. So he gets assists, he scores, he hits 3-pointers. So you're trying to maximize the most valuable players are the ones who contribute the most number of statistics.
I see. So it's not necessarily how many baskets you make. So for example, it's not like, okay, my players this week made, I don't know if you call it baskets or points or what you would call it.
Yeah.
It's points. My players made 29 points and yours made 38.
Yeah.
It's also assists and things like
and
that.
Rebounds.
Okay.
Depending on the league that you're in. In the league that I'm in, the Dynasty League, there are 13 different categories. And they go everywhere from points to free throws that they've made to their percentage of free throws that they've made. So how well good they are at shooting, to personal fouls.
Wow.
So if somebody has a penchant for getting a lot of personal fouls, that is a negative.
It subtracts from your total.
Subtracts. Also turnovers. Some people, if they fumble the ball or they get it stolen from them a lot. And again, that's somebody like James Harden, who's very good at everything else. Because he always has the ball, it's more likely that someone is going to steal it from him, or he's going to make a mistake and pass it off somewhere.
And then you're going to have a subtraction.
Yeah, and then so in that category, he is a negative.
Okay.
But he's such a positive in all the other ones that it sort of outweighs that. Yeah.
So, okay. I would assume that in the snake draft, you want to be in position 1, or is it more strategic to be a little bit later on in picking?
It's interesting because position 1, you get the best player.
Right.
But then you don't pick again until number 24.
Right.
So you get the best guy, but then 24 later, you're getting someone who is essentially not even in the second round or third round. The way that people usually grade players is by position, by tier. So because there's usually 12 managers in a league, the first tier would be the top 12 players.
Okay.
And then second tier would be the next, the 13 to 24. And you usually call them, so you would say that guy's a first round talent.
I see.
Now, yeah, so I mean, personally, I usually like to get somewhere in the middle. So it's like number 4, number 5, and then that way it's not that far away from me getting the next pick.
Because it goes down the snake and then back up, is that why?
Right, so number 12 is also going to get number 13.
And number 11 is now going to get the 14th pick.
Yes,
is that
exactly.
Right? Okay, so that's what you mean by snake.
That's what I mean.
Okay, so it snakes up and down the snake's body, let's say.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, okay, so far all I understand is the snake position. All right, or the snake picking. Can't even get that straight. So, Trevor, tell me what you do. You sit down, and how do you pick your players?
So what happens is, My leagues are always on the Yahoo site.
So that's what keeps track of all the statistics.
Yahoo, the Yahoo League is I think the most popular. There's ESPN also has one.
Okay.
But Yahoo, essentially, you join a league. Usually, there's a commissioner who starts the league.
And this would be someone you know, or can you, like the ones that you've joined?
Yeah,
they're people run by people.
For the most part, now it's people that I know.
Okay.
Yeah. They're usually they're people in my professional community. So I'm an actor and a writer.
Sure.
These are people who are managers now. So they invite you to the league. You make up your name, your silly name, and it's usually
it can be anything.
It's usually a pun on somebody else's. I have my favorite player is a guy named Kristaps Porzingis, and so my team name is Merry Kristaps because it was Christmas. And
sure.
Whatever.
So I would be like the Insomnia Project team, let's say. Right?
Sure. Right. Yeah. You could totally do that.
Sleep and play versus sleep and listen. Sure.
Yeah. So you pick your name and then you wait for the draft day, and then you start tiering your players. So then you go, if I get the first pick, who would I pick? And then you work your way down from there. And then the important thing is, especially in the first 2 rounds, get the best person available.
Okay.
Doesn't matter what position they play, all that kind of stuff. You just want whoever you think is best overall. And then, because the NBA especially is about talent. It's about top-end talent.
Right.
There's usually 1 or 2 really good players on your team, and then the rest are sort of like supporting players.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll rank the players that I think are going to do well, and I usually get that from the help of other websites. Yahoo does it, as well as there are websites, ESPN, Roto World. There are the things where they do a ranking for you.
And from your own personal knowledge,
from
right?
my own personal research that I've done.
And from watching games, you'll be like, I'm impressed with this player.
Yeah, exactly. And there are also players that I have a personal bias towards.
Sure.
There are other teams that I don't like. Usually it's younger players. There's also the worry about injury-prone players.
Right.
Players who like, there are some really good players who just get hurt all the time.
Yeah, because I want to know what happens if you pick your, say, 12 to 18 people.
Yeah.
What if 4 people get injured in your season?
You are in trouble. You're
really?
Just not going. Like, there's nothing really. What you can do at that point is, you can try to trade them and say, listen, maybe these guys will be better in a few weeks, and try to get some value, or you can drop them, and then there's something called the waiver wire, which is essentially all the players who have not been selected in the draft are available. And you can essentially get rid of your players and then pick somebody off from the waiver wire. And quite often, it'll be really young players who haven't established themselves.
Sure.
Or people who are in a supporting. But what ends up happening is somebody gets injured, and then somebody takes their place. And usually that person is not on anybody's team. Right. So if James Harden gets injured, then whoever is on the bench, maybe it's Sam Decker or whoever,
right.
you can usually find them on the waiver wire and then get them to replace them.
But then you've given up someone that...
But then you've given up a really valuable talent. And if you're not willing to wait out the injury, then...
someone else can scoop them up as soon as they're better.
And be patient. And then all of a sudden they're healthy again, and now they've got the best player. Usually the scoring, what happens is I play in what's called a head-to-head league, which is every week you are head-to-head with another manager.
Oh, I see.
So I'll be playing, my friend Chris Bond is in a league. And so if I play Chris that week, it's just his team versus my team for that week, statistically, for those number of games.
I see.
And then at the end of the week, we are assigned a point for every category that we win. So he might win points, he might win assists, he might win offensive rebounds, I might win the field goal percentage or blocks or whatever. And then you get a score to that. And usually we have 14 categories. So it's like, it might end up being like something like 8 to 6 or something. So if I get 8 points, that goes into my point allotment,
okay.
and then I go up and down. So the idea is you want to do as well as you can during the regular season, and then at the end of the year, there's a playoffs.
Right.
And that the thing about fantasy basketball is you don't. Fantasy basketball has to end before the real playoffs start because only a certain number of teams make the actual playoffs.
Right.
So you have all these players. Like if only 16 teams make the playoffs, there's 30 teams. 14 teams will in real NBA will no longer be playing.
Right, and you might have players from those teams. And you might have
team players. So in order to make it fair, you have to the end of the fantasy playoffs is the end of the regular season.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So at the end of the regular season, is everyone dropping players like crazy and picking up players from teams that they think are going to go forward?
It can happen. So what ends up happening is at the end of the fantasy regular season, you either make the playoffs. Usually the top 6 teams make what is known as the playoffs,
right?
And they go into a separate pool. And what ends up happening is they fight it out to win the championship.
Here at Blue Apron, we know exactly how hectic school nights can be. That's why we created Assemble and Bake. Delicious one-pan meals that make family dinner simple. Just assemble the pre-chopped ingredients and put the pan in the oven to bake. Then you're free to help out with that last-minute diorama. Shop Assemble and Bake at BlueApron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit BlueApron.com/terms for more.
We live in a culture obsessed with dieting, weight loss, and exercise. And that can make eating disorder behaviors easy to miss. But the reality is, eating disorders are serious mental illnesses that take a major toll on your health and your life. But recovery is possible. Eating disorders are more common than you might think. Chances are you know someone who is struggling with one. Or maybe you're struggling yourself. If you're concerned about an eating disorder in yourself or a loved one, I want to introduce you to Equip. Equip is a fully virtual, evidence-based eating disorder treatment program that helps patients achieve lasting recovery at home. Every Equip patient is matched with a multidisciplinary care team that includes a therapist, dietitian, medical provider, and mentors. And you get a personalized treatment plan that's tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Equip treats patients of all ages and all eating disorder diagnoses. It's covered by insurance, and there's no wait list. If you think that you or a loved one could be struggling with an eating disorder, don't wait to get help. Visit equip.health to learn more. That's equip.health.
Hey, it's Hannah Burner from Giggly Squad, and we're partnering with Abercrombie for the launch of their new spring collection. I need a wardrobe that can handle a busy week in the city and go straight to a weekend getaway. Abercrombie's newest drop is full of dresses, sweaters, and layers that effortlessly do both. The piece that's stealing the show for me is the new reversible trench coat. It's a classic navy on one side and a coastal plaid on the other, the perfect spring staple. Get your closet ready for a full season of plans. Shop spring at Abercrombie & Fitch in the app, online, and in stores.
Then the bottom 6 go into the consolation playoffs.
Okay.
Now, usually in fantasy leagues, what happens is if you're in the playoffs and you lose your week and you're no longer in, you stop all activity.
Oh, okay.
Because they don't want to make it so it's like, oh, it doesn't matter for me anymore, so I'm just going to drop all my good players.
Right.
And then let other people pick them up. That's not cool.
Right.
So what ends up happening is if you lose, you're done, and you just watch.
Okay.
In my Dynasty League, if you're in the playoffs and you drop somebody, you lose them forever, basically.
Oh, you can't re-pick them up.
You can't re-pick them up. They go basically into this pool that at the beginning of the next season, these people are available.
Can you pick them up at the beginning of the next season?
You can't. Well, if you can, because what happens is we end up having another draft.
Right. So do your players carry over to the ones you've capped, do they carry over?
In the Dynasty League, they do carry up. We have 18 players on a roster. Mm-hmm. We can keep up to 12 players. So
okay.
So if you say you have 12 players that you really like, you keep them. But say you have 14 that you really like,
You gotta
keep
give up
12,
two.
and you got to give up 2. And then they go into this draft, so that on draft day, it's not just the number one team isn't just hoarding all these great players.
Right.
It makes them make decisions to have to let go of usually younger players
Right.
who haven't established themselves, and it's like, oh, I can take that guy, keep him on my team, watch him grow, and then so it's a long-term commitment, and I mean, it takes a lot of time at the beginning of the season, and then as the season goes on, you're just watching it.
So I would imagine that being part of a fantasy basketball league or pool, let's say, whether it's basketball, football, whatever, really leads to more enjoyment of the sport when you're watching.
Yeah, you end up watching teams that you don't care about. Like, I'm a Toronto Raptors fan,
Right.
but I don't have really any Toronto Raptors on my team.
Oh, really?
But I have guys. I have a lot of players from the Denver Nuggets on my team
Okay.
who I could care less about that team.
Right.
But
Sorry, Miracle.
sorry, Michelle Miracle. They're a good team. They're a good young team, and that's why I have a lot of their players is because they're young and
Right.
they're up and coming. But it also makes it interesting to watch their games because it's like, oh, I know that guy. I care what happens to that
Right.
guy. But you're watching it from a different perspective. You're not saying, oh, I want them to win. I just want that guy to do really well.
Oh, isn't that-
If they lose, who cares? you
Right,
know?
right.
It just changes your perspective on the game. Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Has there ever been an incident where you've picked someone up, you didn't think they were going to do well, or you didn't expect them to do as well as they did, and then you're like, this person has been a gold star player for me?
Oh, yeah. There is a player named Paul Millsap who
Does he play for?
He plays now for the Atlanta Hawks. He used to play for the Utah Jazz. He was what you would call in the real world. He was drafted in the second round, which means every team gets there's 30 first round picks. He was picked after that, so like 37th or something.
Okay.
Nobody thought he was anything.
Right.
And then I picked him because I was like, this guy, I like this guy. I like the
What
way
was
he
it
plays.
about him that you liked? Like, what did you see?
I like players who are gritty, who just like they just do the dirty work, right?
Okay.
I don't like the flashy players. I like the ones that just have a hard hat and then you just go out there. And he was the type of player who was behind somebody else. He was on the bench, but every time that the guy in the starters got injured, he would always have 5 games where he was amazing. But then the guy would get healthy again because they're paying him $15 million.
Right.
They got to play him.
Right, sure.
And so Paul Millsap would go back to the bench, and I was like, this guy's a gold mine. One day they're gonna realize, no, he's the one, and they're gonna. And sure enough, they did. And I just remembered I'm holding on to this guy for sure. The other guy I would say is Kristaps Porzingis, the guy I named my team after.
Right.
Because I made a trade with a casting director, Steve Mann.
Okay.
And he said, I want this player that you have, and I'll give you my rookie draft pick. I was
Right.
like, okay, fine. I gave him that player.
And was that player a good player that you sacrificed?
He turned out to be a good player, but
Okay.
not as good as Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis is going to be like a worldwide superstar.
Okay.
Because he's from Latvia.
Okay.
And he's he's what they call a unicorn.
Okay.
Because he's 7 feet tall, but he can shoot a 3-pointer.
Okay.
So, and it's that's what, in basketball, that's the way the NBA basketball is going now. It's centers aren't like Shaquille O'Neal, those big
Yeah.
guys who just stood around the basket. And the game has totally changed because now 3 points used to be a novelty. 3-point shooting used to be a novelty,
Right.
and now it's the norm.
Ah.
And it's most people can shoot 3-pointers, and 3 is more than 2.
Sure.
So if you can shoot, all you have to do is shoot 30% from 3-point. If you shoot 10 3-pointers and you only hit 3, that's 9 points.
Right.
But to get 9 points, you'd have to hit 4 or 5 regular shots, right?
Right.
So it's just the averages are better of you scoring more points if you shoot 3-pointers. Anyway, that's just the way the league is going. So it's more valuable to have a guy who's super tall, who can shoot 3-pointers, get you points, also get you rebounds, also get you block shots. Like,
Right.
he's like, and that's why they call him a unicorn, because they're so rare. It's so rare to find
Right.
somebody who's that tall and that skilled.
And you don't know if a European player or a player who's not North American playing in the North American League is going to be
Yeah.
able to, really get it and go with it.
No
right?
offense to your countryman, Andrea Bargnani, but that is a case of not a unicorn.
Right, 'cause people
just
had
a
a lot of
horse
high-
with a horn stapled to his head. Yeah.
A lot of high hopes
Yeah,
for him,
he
but he
did.
didn't really deliver it.
And he had that physicality. He was 7 feet tall, and
Right.
he was supposed to be able to shoot 3-pointers, and he was supposed to be able to get block shots, and he just couldn't do any of it.
Fair.
He was just not. He just didn't have that certain quality.
And where is he now?
He's back in Italy.
Yeah. I met him once. He was really lovely.
I'm sure
But-
he's great. I'm sure
but
he's a nice guy.
Not on the court, it seems.
No, on the court he was a little too lovely.
Okay, Trevor. Before we end this episode, which I have to thank you because you've brought some clarity to this whole
Good.
fantasy pool.
I swear to you, I could talk for another 2 hours about this.
Maybe we'll have a part 2.
Yeah, maybe.
What I should do is record you on draft day and see what's going on.
Oh, they won't fall asleep. No one will fall asleep.
Why are you just like?
I'm too excited. I just get
What's it like on draft day? Like, are you like, leave me alone? I'm in my zone. I need an hour.
a little bit. Leave me alone, and then you end up chatting with the other managers as they go.
Because everyone's doing it at the same time,
at
right?
the exact same
So
time.
you have to block off that time out of your day. Like, you can't work.
Yeah.
You can't.
But what ends up happening is if you can't make it, the computer makes the choices
Oh, I
for
see.
you
Okay.
based on
What you plug in.
what you've plugged
Okay.
in. Yeah, but that's not fun.
Right.
So what'll end up happening is, I'll tell Dale I gotta have this time, and you end up talking trash with all the other managers. What's interesting is, like, we were talking about draft day, so you try to get the best players in the beginning, and then afterwards, every day you have to fill out your roster, and your roster is made out of different positions. So you have point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. You have to have all of those types of players in order to fill in those slots. So if you have 5 point guards, you don't have a slot in your roster to put all of them in.
Right.
So you have to also get centers. You also have to get power forwards. So towards the end of the draft, you're looking for positional need as well, and that's when it becomes a little more complicated, because you're like, this guy's way better, but I've already got too many of that type of player. I need to get this guy who's not as good, and so that's where this sort of the art or the skill comes in.
So, Trevor, if I was to ask you to give a tip or two to the novice person who's entering a fantasy pool, what would your tips be?
I think my main tip would be, if you're when in doubt in the opening rounds, pick talent over positional need, but always pick a point guard. You need point guards, and you need actually strike that. You need wing players. So shooting guards and small forwards in the league right now, there are a lot of point guards and there are a lot of centers, but there are not a lot of in-betweens. So if you have a choice, pick those guys first. Pick guys who will give you assists, and don't worry so much about points and 3-pointers. Everybody in the league now is shooting points, and everybody's shooting 3-pointers. You can figure that out later.
Right.
Get the rarities, which are things like blocks and assists and steals. There are only a few guys in the league who are elite at that kind of thing, and if you can find those guys, then all of a sudden, like, you've got that stuff covered, and you can deal with less pressing things later. Yeah, which is great.
There you go. Well, thank you, Trevor, for helping to bring some insight to the fantasy pool.
Anytime.
You're listening to the Insomnia Project, and as always, we're produced by Drumcast Productions, and we were recording this episode in Toronto, Canada.